Welcome Community Radio in the heart of Shakespeare country, for the community, by the community, in the community.
Nice.
You're listening to The Art Show, and today we are very lucky to have Kate Rolfe with us. Kate Rolfe is a councillor, a district councillor, a town councillor, a county councillor. So she is one of the ladies who knows probably most about what's happening with the Neighbourhood Development Plan and the referendum, and your chance to go out and vote on Thursday the 29th of November. Now Kate is going to talk to us about the community leisure and wellbeing aspects of this exciting new neighbourhood plan, development plan, I should say. But Kate, hi, good morning.
Hi.
You started your career in the BBC.
I did, yes.
Which sounds very exciting. But I want to jump to when you were working with the older people in Stratford. And what did you do then?
I've always been passionate about the older community and realised that there are a lot of people in Stratford that are lonely, that are isolated and needed a bit of help. So I set up a company which only ran for about 4 years. It was very successful. It was just me. And I used to go into older people's houses with permission of their family. And if you like, I used to do a kind of 12,000-mile service on them. Sounds weird, but, you know, I used to check that they had their boiler serviced and that they had their hearing tested and their eyes tested regularly, and that they were getting the right amount of attendance allowance and pension. And if they needed personal care, I used to bring personal care in because that's something I didn't do. And it was very useful for the people I worked with. It was incredibly useful. I was able to tell them about what was going on in the community as well, and often took them to community events because, you know, when you are on your own and you've been on your own for a long time, you don't know what's going on around you. So, yes, then I became a councillor. I became a district councillor first, then a county councillor the following year. So I became very, very busy, but I've always been, my passion has been the older community. And 5 years ago, I'm very lucky, I'm part of the Rosebird Community Centre, which is by Waitrose. I'm very lucky to be on their committee. And I decided to set up a tea and chat group for the elderly. I managed to get grants from various people so that I could pay for taxis to bring people to tea and chat. And we have clients now, as I say, we've been running for 5 years. I have a wonderful group of volunteers. We have clients that come that really, and it's every fortnight, it's run every fortnight on a Friday afternoon. It's the only time they ever go out the house. And it's company for them, and it's just a wonderful experience for them and for us working with them. And we've seen them blossom. We've seen groups grow out of that group. We have one reading group of 3 ladies that didn't know each other when they started, but now know each other very well. So it's very useful. It's very difficult to find people that are isolated, though. So, you know, I constantly look and hope that people, you know about us and come to us.
And how can people, if there was anybody listening now who wanted to become involved and liked what you just said, how can somebody get in touch with you?
They, well, I don't particularly want to give my telephone number over the air, but I will give you the telephone number, and if they'd like to contact you, I'm happy to contact them.
Fantastic, because all of those groups sound like a lifeline, isn't it? Really?
Absolutely,
a total lifeline.
Absolutely, and there are a lot of things for the older generation to take part in, but it's getting that communication out there. We have wonderful organisations, you know, like VASA and Carver and some, you know, Springfield Mind, Age UK. They run lots and lots of groups. Organisations that help the elderly, but it's getting that information out there, and I, as a councillor, I'm able to give them that information,
which is really important. And then if you are at home on your own, you know, you've pointed out, you might not even know how to get in touch with anyone if you haven't got an internet. I mean, there's so many obstacles, aren't there? Really.
And also when people I mean, it's been medically proven that Alzheimer's, does come about with. I mean, if you imagine an older person that sits there day after day after day looking at the television with no one to talk to, you can imagine that it does affect them mentally, and so we have to do as much as we can to prevent that. Also about their mental health being as well, and their physical health being. VASA do some wonderful clubs. They do chair exercises. They do singing. Singing is the new thing at the moment for older people to just sing. It makes you feel better. We all like to have a little sing in private or in the shower, but it does make you feel better.
See, and all the things that you're saying really about these activities, they are creative. They are activities that can be obviously done together. We can sing together, even if it's reading books together. All of these activities have got some kind of art, if you like, in them, which is it's a real interest to me. We've been talking about how physiologically and emotionally these activities can have a real impact on your spirit and your will to live, really.
Absolutely.
And what is interesting as well, I have been reading through the community leisure and wellbeing section of the Neighbourhood Development Plan, obviously that you're here to talk to, and I think our job really is to let people know about the exciting things, the inclusive way that it's written. I think that if this plan goes through, just from reading it yesterday, I thought that the concern for people that were isolated, all the concerns have been addressed. Could you tell me, in drafting up this and working with the volunteers who worked on this, what were the core elements of you looking after people in this plan? What did you want to achieve?
Are you talking about people in general, or the older generation, or just everyone?
Across the board, the key elements. Okay.
Well, I think right from day one, people need access to open space. I think open space makes you feel better physically and mentally. And I think that a lot of people out there will say that we're building lots of houses and our fields are going, and to a certain extent that is also happening. But what we have to be mindful of, particularly in the Neighbourhood Plan, is that we encourage more open space within those developments. And we create a kind of biodiversity environment so that people can walk, people can cycle, people can just sit. I think that's another thing about open space. You don't need to be physically active and run around a field, but what you do need is to be able to sit and look around you. You don't want to be able to sit and look at brick buildings, so any open space we need benches to sit on, we need lots of trees, we need a lovely clean environment for people to feel better about themselves mentally and physically.
There's a wonderful part in the plan as well to make a necklace of green around the outside.
Absolutely.
Which could you tell us a little bit about that?
Well, I think that Stratford, over the years that I've lived here, you see this development happening on the edge of town, and developers will tell you it's very sustainable. Of course it's not sustainable, because all you're creating is houses on the edge of a town and further to travel into the town that you live in. So what we are trying to do with the Neighbourhood Plan is to try and protect that outer area and to become open plan, open woodlands, grasslands, playing fields, football fields. So often I hear people telling me that there's very little space for kids to just go and kick a football around, particularly when it comes to developments. And so by creating that ribbon around Stratford, it allows people to have that open space and have the ability to use it.
And also promote health, like we're talking about, cycling, walking.
Absolutely. And just picnicking. I mean, on a sunny on a sunny afternoon, on a Saturday and during the summer, you can go down the Wreck and you see people even at 8, 9 o'clock at night just sitting, picnicking outside. It's so important. It's so important for your mental health.
Totally. And also for older people, we started off talking about the programme about your involvement with older people and getting people together. If these spaces are easier, if they're more accessible, encourage people to go out. You're more likely to meet people.
Absolutely.
Obviously sat on a park bench taking a picnic out.
Yes, absolutely.
It's got it. I personally loved the plan for that because it felt as if it was encouraging people to have a healthier future.
Yes. I mean, we absolutely. I mean, and we have to. We have two huge areas in Stratford. We have the recreation ground, which is so important by the river, and then we have the Welcombe Hills. I don't know whether any of you have ever walked up the Welcombe Hills. It's just beautiful, and we need to protect that for as long as we possibly can. Because it's not just about dog walkers, it's about everyone being able to use it and enjoy it.
I think that those are words, you talked about protecting, prevention, those are words that are repeated throughout the plan. So it's not, although it says the development plan, it's more about the protection. That's what I felt, and the enhancing of what's there.
Yeah.
Could you tell us a little bit how that
Well,
that's
really? I mean, in fact, just before I came here today, I've been standing outside the Spa in Tiddington, which is in my ward, and just talking to people about the neighbourhood plan. And there is a misconception that people think it's about housing. It's not about housing. And where housing is concerned, it is about making sure it's the right sort of housing. It's designed well, and it's not just designed well individually as a house. It's designed as an environment, as a space to live in. So it's not about housing. I know a lot of people think that it is, but it's not. It's about where we live and how we make it and how we protect what we have and enhance what we have, because we don't have everything. I think we have the most beautiful town in the world, personally. And has anyone seen the Christmas lights? They're just fabulous. But I think we have a wonderful town. And as a councillor, I do get moaned at quite a lot. Oh, what are you doing about the traffic? And it's terrible, terrible, terrible. Well, think about the good things in our town. And there are many, many good things. And there are many things that we can improve on. We can have perhaps a little bit more health facilities south of the river. We've had 2 recently built care homes south of the river. Where are they going to access health facilities? So there is a lacking of health facilities south of the river, and we want to promote that and see if we can make sure we try and get it at some stage. But it is a wonderful town to live in, and I think we need to, if you like, be more positive about it, because the more positivity we have about our town, I think the better we will get from it, if you like.
And we are talking about the plans, the Neighbourhood Development Plan and the referendum. Your chance to vote on Thursday, November the 29th. Now, this is a really important plan. It's been put together by the community and it's for the community. And although it says a development plan, as we've discussed in the programme, it's more about protecting your environment and building a positive new environment. I read in the plan, Kate, that people are going to be encouraged, allotments are going to be protected, those growing spaces. Could you tell us a little bit about that, please?
Well, allotments are very important to the people that use allotments, and there's always waiting lists. So to be able to create more spaces for people to grow their own vegetables. I mean, it is ironic that some of the developments that have been built have, 10-metre gardens, tiny little gardens, and more people want bigger areas to grow their own food. I think it's really, really important. And so in the plan, it's about making sure that the ones we have are protected and that any future development creates more allotment space for people to use.
Mm. And that was what struck me as well. Obviously, sometimes the future is a little bit uncertain, and growing your own vegetables is such a wonderful thing to do with your children. Teaching that skill is a wonderful thing. And then obviously that feeds into our diet of these idiots.
Absolutely.
And obviously the biodiversity and the nature that we need to protect as well. Do you think with this plan and all of these future plans, hopefully it will go through, do you think that the infrastructure to support all of this, I think what I'm trying to get at is will it be rolled out? How long will it take to start and finish if it gets agreed?
Well, the Neighbourhood Development Plan coincides with the core strategy at the District Council. So effectively it runs until 2031.
Okay.
But throughout the next, how many years is that? 13 years. If this Neighbourhood Plan gets adopted, there will be amendments made along the way to fit in what's happening across the district, because the core plan is just for the entire Stratford on Avon district. So we hope it will get adopted because it will become, if you like, a planning policy document. So again, I'm trying to stress it's not just about housing, but if anybody did come forward with any development within Stratford, it is a document that we can use to look at not just about how it looks in terms of a house, but the other open space and what money can be given back from the developers into the community. So looking at allotments, looking at leisure, looking at health, we want that money to go back into the community. I don't know whether anybody has spoken to you about the community infrastructure levy. Have they talked to you about that?
That's the SIL, the
that's
25%?
The SIL, yeah. So that money over the next few years will build up in the town council. They get 25%. And we have already started at the town council a list of projects which are all about community projects. So it might be about a community hall, it might be about producing more allotments, it might be about helping with more sports facilities at the leisure centre, or helping with playground equipment, and it's very strong on the health and well-being of the community.
That's what I'm picking up from that. And
absolutely.
Lots of playgrounds, so any more than 10 houses, and they have to have a playground with them. And so will that be supported ideally with funds that will be, if you like, supplying equiment for
Absolutely.
playgrounds?
It will. That's exactly what it will do. The community infrastructure will put that back into the community by identifying the areas that need it. I think certainly as a district councillor for the last 10 years, I'm very much aware that developers put in the bare minimum in terms of a play area, and it will always be a swing and a slide and a roundabout, whatever. And it's usually for the younger children, and I've been told so many times that there's no sort of climbing frames or anything for the older children to do. So we have identified at the town council that is something that is needed within our community, very much so.
And I did want to get to that because, I've got teenage relations, and I'm sure that lots of people have in the town, and sadly at the moment they don't even have a youth club to go to.
No.
And I think that those areas, as you read the plan, and hopefully you will find out more about it if you don't know anything about it, but those are areas that have really been addressed. I mean, there's talk of an ice rink.
Yeah.
There's talk of expanding the leisure facilities, and across the board, really easily accessible
Absolutely.
Entertainments, if you like, that are away from the computer. If you don't want to be stuck to the computer or the screen.
Well, this is a problem that we have with, it's not just the youth that use their phones and computers all the time, but, we need to encourage them to go out and use the facilities. Many years ago, I helped revamp the skate park. I got a group of young people together, and we raised funds to improve the facilities at the skate park. And I said many years ago because it was about maybe 7 or 8 years ago, and maybe it's in need of a little bit more improvement as well. And again, that's something that the Community Infrastructure Levy might be able to do. Yes, skate rings and bowling alleys, they've all been talked about, but obviously you need money and you need somewhere to put them. But meanwhile, we will strive to do as much as we can for that youth generation as well, to get them out and active. Do you know about the park run? Have you ever been down to the park run?
Is that the 5K?
That's amazing.
That's across the country, though. You can
just phone
but there's
up
one
in Stratford.
Yes, it is. It's fabulous.
It's just amazing.
Yeah.
We Jenny and I went sponsored the defibrillator down there, and we went down and we took part. We didn't run. Well, Jenny ran, I walked. But there's hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people use it, and it's just brilliant. Look at the lovely Keep Fit equipment on the wreck. I bet not many people know about that.
Well, gosh, could you tell us about that then?
Well, at the bottom of the wreck, if you go down to the very bottom, towards where the Sea Cadets are situated, there's Keep Fit equipment, there's running equipment, there's cycling equipment. It's just brilliant.
Oh, wow. Well, gosh,
brilliant.
Maybe get down there today.
Not many people know about that.
Should we go after the programme?
Yeah. Maybe not.
I think that's the thing as well, isn't it? Sharing information and
people
making
don't
sure
know about it.
that
people don't know about it.
Yeah, and having a community radio station, actually, where you can share that kind of information is really, really important.
I think the other thing about, and I speak to a lot of teenagers, a lot of young people, and I'm not sure it's the youth clubs that are the ones that that the young people want. Most of them seem to like to lurk. I use that in the nicest possible way. They just like to hang around, and I've got 3 children that were all teenagers and were teenagers in Stratford. And they like to just hang around. There's nothing wrong with that. I think people get kind of threatened about a group of young people hanging around, but they just simply want to hang around. They don't want to be controlled by a youth club and from 6 to 8 you must be there. They just want to hang around with their mates, and that's fine. But I'd like to see them hanging around more, doing something more physical.
Yeah, and I think really by youth club, maybe that's, I don't know, could be deemed to be quite an old-fashioned term for what in actual fact I mean is somewhere to go, somewhere where they can go and just hang out, really.
I've always kind of liked the idea of a kind of open cafe, an unlicensed open cafe, just for young people to just go, play some music, meet friends. But again, it needs money, and maybe if we get all this money in from SIL, maybe we can find something for them to do. But they need to take control of it themselves. They need to run it themselves and look after it themselves. As soon as you get somebody with authority running it, it won't work.
Were there any teenagers on the steering group? Were there any young people?
Yes, there were.
Yeah.
Yes, there were.
And were they from the schools here, from the local schools?
Yes, local schools were invited and represented on the Neighbourhood Development Plan. Yeah.
And did those young people then take it to the young people at school and do votes, and how was that done?
We hope they will, because in fact this started 6-7 years ago, and those young people that we had are probably all of voting age, if not well past voting age, so yes, I'm hoping that it will have filtered through.
Because really what we're looking at is a plan that hopefully, if it, as you said, gets adopted, will really affect children's children or your children
Absolutely.
and their children.
Absolutely.
Because I might be wrong in hearing that it was possibly going to be building up until 2050. Am I right, or is it just 2031?
I thought it coincided with the core strategy, which ends in 2031.
Okay, so maybe I've just got that wrong. But anyway, I mean, we are talking about putting these building blocks for the future.
Absolutely,
really.
Absolutely.
Now, I want to stress that this is not a political plan. You're not going to be voting for any particular party, and this is a plan that's been developed with 50 passionate volunteers from across the community. I wanted to ask you how the older generation have been catered for in this plan. It talks about catering for isolated older people.
Yes. Well, we have more and more care homes coming forward in Stratford. One of the biggest problems there is GP facilities to facilitate the increase in the older generation that are coming into Stratford. The reason they sell so well is because Stratford is a beautiful place to live. But we must be mindful that we, at all times, don't put them in little silos in their little houses. We must bring them out into the community and get together. I mean, for instance, I'm going to do a little plug here for those that live in Tiddington. Myself and Vasa have just set up a cottage pie club. So once a month, the second Tuesday of the month, at the Crown, the pub in Tiddington, great pub, they're going to do a 2-course hot lunch for people in Tiddington. There are 3 care homes in Tiddington, and those care homes keep very much separate. So I've gone to all of them and said, come on, integrate with each other, meet in the pub, have a drink, have more than one drink, but just integrate with each other and talk to each other, because you might find like-minded people. It is so difficult to find ways of bringing people out of their houses. You know, on a miserable cold night, do we want to go out of the house at 5 o'clock in the afternoon? But when you're there, boy, it could be really good. You know, you could have fun. So the Cottage Pie Club, and you need to contact me about that. Yes, we do have more care homes, and yes, there probably will be plans coming forward for even more, who knows. But we need to cater for those people because of the strain on the GP services in Stratford, which is why in the plan you'll see that we need one south of the river, because already we've had 2 new care homes come there.
And there's also talk in the plan for a south of the river possible new school as well, and to take the strain off the bridge.
That's right. I mean, that's planned to go into the Long Marston development of a new high school, a new primary school, which is very much needed, very much needed.
Which will then, in turn, will affect the traffic, and it will cut the traffic coming into Stratford at that school run time, which can be...
In a way it will, but then what we're hoping is that this high school, south of the river at Long Marston, will not involve traffic going over the Clopton Bridge, which, in effect, should maybe ease the traffic a little bit more.
Yeah, that's what I mean, and that's what's so wonderful about this plan is it seems like every single part of the puzzle has been dealt with.
Yeah, absolutely.
And looked at, you know, from obviously getting people out and about and meeting up and living in healthier spaces.
Yes, absolutely.
Living in houses that, you know, 1-bedroom houses being built, 2-bedroom houses being built.
And they're so needed, 1-bedroom houses. So needed. Now, I know we're very short of time, but I will impress on people to go and vote. All the normal polling stations that you would normally go and vote at local elections, they're all open from 7 o'clock in the morning until 10 o'clock at night. And you will have all received a card to tell you where to vote. Please go and vote. It's a very, very important document, and it will protect Stratford for the next at least 13 years, if not beyond. So please go and vote.
And I think that's the word of the day, really, protect. And you might have, we were talking actually when Mezzanine, the track Teardrop was on, and we were talking about how maybe you've had a leaflet and you've lost it, or it's gone on the fire or in the bin or something, and
Yeah.
you're not quite sure about what on earth this neighbourhood development plan is about. I just want to stress as well, this isn't anything political that you're voting for. It's really a plan that's been put in place again by the community, and it's now ready really for your vote to take forward. So is there anything else you'd like to say? Is there anything else you'd like to say, Kate?
just go and vote, and if any of you know anyone, your next door neighbours, that you feel are lonely, please tell them to contact the radio station, and put them in, and they will put them in touch with me, because we'd love to have you join us at our tea and chat.
And all of the activities that you've described since, on the show, obviously people can get in touch. But I think that the tea and the chats and the new Shepherd's Pie Club all sound amazing. And hopefully the more of those that get started, the more will get started across the town.
And it's all about the community using their initiative to set these up, because it is fantastic. You get so much from it.
Yeah. Well, it's been really great to have the opportunity to
pleasure.
speak to you. Thank you so much for coming in.
Thank you.